The lead to this is really easy to play. It's not an improvised lead where we're shredding all over the place. It's a very beautiful, sentimental melody that you can really get the guitar to just sing and make this sound great. So it's as we looked at a little bit in the left-hand close-up, it's up in 8th position, and so now we're talking about really the introduction. I really shouldn't be calling this a lead because it's a composed melody that is used as the theme for the song. It's not exactly the same as a lead. It's just it's a melody that that is the basis for the song. So looking at the tablature, what I want to talk about here is to try to help you get a better understanding of reading rhythm signs in tablature and what everything means. So the first thing we have in measure 1 is that little square box. That's a rest. That's a half note rest or a half rest. And that means for 2 beats. The beats are going to be going very slow in this. I don't know what we're going to do when we do it with a metronome yet, but it's going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. That half rest means we don't play on beats 1 or 2. And the first melody note comes in on beat 3. The melody note on beat 3, which is at the 10th fret with a bend on it where it says full, we'll get to that in just a second, is written as a quarter note. That means it has to ring, it takes up the whole 3rd beat, which is 3 and then we've got 2 8th notes after that, which are beats 4 and. So if I was playing it without the bend, it'd be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3, 4 and down, down, up. But I have to make sure that I come in right on beat 3. Now, that bend, we need to get all 3 fingers lined up, 1 fret at a time. Keep your 3rd finger, actually keep all your fingers really close to the frets, and use all the strength that you have in all 3 of them to bend that note up and release it. So you got to make sure that one thing really important on bends like this, don't put your finger, I don't know if I can show you this very well, if this is the string, don't put your finger flat on the string like you would if you were playing a chord. Get underneath it a little bit so that you can now, when you push it up, you've got some meat of this finger helping with that. If I just have it flat on the string like this and I try to move it up, it's going to slip off. I need to get underneath the string a little so that when I push it, it goes. And I need to then keep it in contact with the fretboard very well when I release it and let it back down so that we hear this. And we're trying to get it to sound as close as possible. On an electric guitar, this is much easier, a whole step higher. So to get it pitched right, play the note you're going to start the bend from, but play the note a whole step away at the 12th fret. That's what I'm shooting for. If I just did this, it wasn't far enough. I need to get to this. There was the first line. So the first 4 measures just have the bend and release on the 3rd beat of the measure, and then the 8th fret, the G, and back to the A at the 10th fret on 4 and. It's really the same, except in the 2nd measure, comes down to E on the 8th fret, 9th fret of the G string. So in the first line, it doesn't have the ending ascent, which it does the 2nd time around. Now I'm in measure 5. Be 1, 2. All downs, because these are all quarter notes. Fingers that I like to use on that are your 3rd finger, of course, for all the bends, and everything stays in 8th position there. But when you're about to, then you need to reach back to the 7th fret of the 1st string in the on the 2nd beat of the last measure. To the 10th, and then reach back to the 7th fret and stay with your 1st finger at the 7th, your 2nd finger at the 8th, and then your 4th finger is going to land about the 10th, but then slide right to the 12th. That slide is really important. That it's a slide that doesn't have a starting point, meaning you don't hear this. So it's a slide that you have to be moving right when you hit it. So again, the starting point was very vague. You did not hear this. So you got to practice that. It's a 2-fret slide with your 4th finger, and this might slice you up a little bit, so you're going to have to be careful. but that's what you want it to sound like. Then don't change positions. That was the position change. Play that note at the 10th fret with your index finger, with finger 1, and then the whole thing starts again if you're going to play it again. Now what I have written out in verse 1 is the melody approximately the way he sings it. So I'm not worried about making it exactly the same, and I'm certainly not worried about playing exactly the rhythm that he puts in with the notes. We've done what's called, I've quantized it, where all of the melody notes are played exactly on an eighth, at one of the eighth note spots, meaning either on a beat or on an and. Now sometimes when you sing, you don't put those notes right there. So this is going to sound a little bit square, not quite as fluid, let's say, because I want you to learn to keep your right hand moving, where if a note is on a beat, it's a down, and if it's on an and, it's an up. And you move up and down 8 times in every measure. You don't do this. And then just freeze right there until you think it's time to play the next note. What you want to do is keep the metronome going. This is your metronome. It's right here at the end of your arm. And you just keep that going down, up, down, up, down, up in every measure, and then you make sure that you play the notes on the right spot. So looking at the first melody note at the top of page 2, we've got a note at the 10th fret. That's the last note of the lead. And it's written as a dotted quarter note. A dotted quarter note takes up 3/8 notes. That would be 1 and 2, and now the next note needs to be played on the and of 2. And then we have a steady stream of eighth notes, but the important thing about those is that first eighth note is on the and of 2, so you have to hit it as an up. And that's all the notes in that first measure. And it's the equivalent to the words, it's late in the evening. Is that what it is? Yeah. Yeah. So, so what we're trying to do now is play an approximation of the vocal part. 3, 4. Now I have a dotted quarter rest. That's 3/8 notes. 1 and 2 and. Whole bunch of ups right there in a row. Next line. 1, 2. It's exactly the same. 1, 2. 3, 4, 1. 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. There is what I'll be playing in a minute. I'll have a segment that has me playing that along with that, and really want to encourage you to practice both of those parts and really get a lot out of the play along segment in there. So all we're trying to do there is play the verse to the song, and again, as if you were singing it, you're playing the vocal part. But again, keep this going just like that. That's of course followed by the intro. So you come out of this, and then we're back into the. All downs here because these are all notes on the beats. At which point we go back to the first verse, or when we get there into the second ending, let me find my second ending page here. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, cool. I did put together this lead that happens. This is now a little fill that we hear Eric play. And it actually goes on a little bit longer. There's a couple more notes in there, but what I want to do is have you come in with the melody right there. So this is the second ending, this is the top of page 3. And then what I have is the melody to the bridge. So notice I was keeping the beat here with my right hand. I was really exaggerating that. I wanted you to just see it. I'm lucky I hit all the notes right, because in order to really hit those accurately, I really wouldn't have my hand moving that big, but I just wanted you to see this. I would really keep it moving a lot more subtly and keeping an anchor down here. Now I changed the rhythm in there just to show you that it doesn't have to go exactly the way it does there. Every verse he sings, he does slightly differently, partly because there are different numbers of syllables in some of the same spots from verse to verse. So that is, I think, all I got to tell you about the lead. And let's take a look now. I'm going to try to put together the two of them and give you something that you can practice along with, playing either the rhythm or the lead. And you should be able to do both and pick out the melody and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that's all I have to tell you to get you a good head start on playing the lead parts, or again, the melody parts. Better to call them melodies than leads, because they're not improvised with what we're doing here. We're just trying to play a very simple melody and keep it exactly in time.